Hello there! Are you shopping with your Macys card today? No, you're not. Would you like to save 20%? We open a new account for you. You get 20% off anything you buy today and tomorrow, up to $500. If you open a new account with us, it takes less than 2 minutes to apply, and if you open this account today, you'll save $100. Hello, guys. Back at it here again with another video, and you're probably wondering, what the hell am I talking about with Macys and Macys credit cards, yada yada yada. Well, certain things have come to my attention, and I think I've got to make this video. And today I've got my Macys attire on, and for one day and one day only, I'm putting back on the Macys outfit, and we're gonna talk about Macys and go over what the hell has happened with this company over the last 10 years. So with that being said, let's take a seat and we'll talk about this today. So we're going to talk about it. I've got my Macys outfit on here. I've got the tie. I've got the Macys red on. And so you guys are probably wondering, why am I bringing Macys up today? Well, because for over the last 8 years, I worked for the company. And I did a little bit of everything. So, with that being said, I'll talk about my background here. I started out at Macys back in 2013. And I worked all the way up until the pandemic in 2020. I started out as an on-call support associate. Right there, on-call support associate. I was making $8.45. I worked my way, I busted my ass. I got to be the hotel handler. 2 months after they gave me that position, they cut it. I went into men's. I became the top credit producer in our store at Scottsdale Fashion Square Mall. I was promoted to the Buffalo specialist. I did that for 3 years. Then I decided I wanted to take a different turn with things. And I really liked asset protection, so I was what's called a visual security officer. There for a year and a half, I did the holiday VSO, and then I oversaw construction at night. I was the guy watching the people doing all of the maintenance, the repairs in the building, the remodel, during the big renovation. And then in 2020, COVID hit, and they decided to cut my job. And they did that with a lot of people. No, it's not my business. I'm not going to put everybody else on blast or anything like that, because that's for them. That's their thing. I'm talking about Macys and my experience, and we'll talk about a little bit of the history and what has gone on with them over the last 10 years or so. Because unfortunately, Macys isn't doing so well right now. They've really kind of sunk themselves into the ground. So I'll talk about my experience, what I saw, what I went through, what the company did during those times, and we'll go from there. So when I started out, I was a support associate. Nobody knew who I was. I was what was called on call. And on call, they basically had different tiers of hours. So like you could be the very bottom was like flex. That was basically like you don't get any hours. Then it was on call. You were guaranteed 3 hours a month or something like that. Then you were part-time, 10 to 20 hours a week. And then you had full-time, 28 to 32. Nobody got 40, so we'll talk about that. But anyways, I started out as an on-call support associate. So what is support? You're the back of house. So you help put out merchandise. You do price changes. You do inventory. Sometimes you'll help out with the receiving dock. But that's where I started out. And so Macys, and when you think of, so I ask yourself this. When you think of department stores, or what in Macys, you think department store, high end, that tailored customer service. You're gonna go in and you're gonna deal with somebody who knows the merchandise, who's an expert in the area that they're in. So like if I'm gonna buy shoes, I know my guy Jose, he's gonna take care of me with shoes. Or if I go over into if I need a personal shopper, Suzanne's gonna be there for me. Or if I need to know how to put a bed together or what matches with what, Therese is gonna take care of me with that. And these are good people, so I'm not like I said, I'm putting the best. These are the best of the best people that I know. If I needed, a rug, I'd go to Chris. If I needed furniture, I'd go to Regina. These are the people that would, they were experts in their areas. So when that's what you think about department stores, the mall, the people, the food out in the mall, the high end clothing like Polo, Hugo Boss, Seven Jeans, etc., etc. So when I first started, I was the merchandiser, and I really wasn't, I didn't get any hours, so I didn't see a whole lot until I became the hotel handler. And so back then, you had a pretty strong structure. So like you had like I worked in men's, so in the men's department you had specialized departments. So you had polo, you had a men's shoes team, you had a young men's team. I worked in the young men's for a while. And then up on the second floor, you had specialists for a lot of the areas. So like in men's polo, you had a men's polo specialist. In women's polo, you had a women's polo specialist. And then you had that support. You had the vendors that came in, that were the real experts of the product, all the news that was going on with the company, you had Michael and Levi's, right? Levi is an example. We had a Levi specialist, we had a Levi merchandiser, and then you had the vendor. And the vendor basically is the one that educates the specialists. What are the new jeans that are coming out? What are what are the different styles? Information. Okay, where do the jeans sit at the hip? How do they fit? Are they low cut? Or are they boot cut? Slim straight, those type of things. That's what the vendor was there for you. So you had this whole support team. Everything back in 2015 was very structured. You had the tools that you needed to be successful. You're basically your shovel, right? Construction worker needs a shovel or a tractor to do his work. A cop needs his gun. I'm trying to think here off the hand. A cowboy needs his lasso. Doctor needs his stethoscope. Well, for us, it was our registers, because we had to do everything on that's how we got all our information. Okay, I need a size for something for a customer. I look it up on a register. Oh, I need to have my client books in a register. So we'll talk about all of that too. But the registers were our tools, and they had plenty of registers throughout the area. I remember the third floor. You had a register in electrics. You had electric and bridal. You had electric here. So they had a very strong structure. So like on the first floor, you had your shoe team. On the second floor, you had your handbags. Then you had your jewelry, and then you had fragrances. So each section, you had different counter managers. So Lancome, Estee Lauder, Dior, Impulse. So you had a lot of structure. I go in, I buy Lancome, right? I'm a customer. I go in, I want to buy Lancome. I want somebody who knows Lancome like Christina. I want those experts. Or I go over to God, I don't even know. But I'm not a fragrance guy. I want to buy a fragrance. Well, Twyla was my go-to for fragrances. How does this smell? What does it cost? How long? What are the notes in the fragrance? Those type of things. So you had that structure. You had everything very well organized. You had specialists. and the specialist positions themselves came with an incentive to kind of push and drive people to make more money. And then you had your suits department. There you had commission departments. So, you know, like Rob or Jose or Dallas, you know, if they sell shoes, they get a little bit of extra on top of their regular salary. So you had all of that. That's how it all worked when I came in there. And then they recognized people. Like even in our loss prevention team, we had, you know, a whole team up there. You had a whole support. You had your manager, your AP manager, you had the assistant AP. So you even had a strong management structure. So each division, men's had a manager, cologne, fragrance had a manager, jewelry had a manager, handbags had a manager, women's shoes had a manager, support had two managers, or what's called MTMs. So you had that, and then we even had a store manager, an ASM, assistant store manager. So there was a structure there. And so at my time when I was working there, we had that structure, you know, and and everything flowed. And that was like at the peak. So I worked at Fashion Square Mall, and I know I don't know I'm not, you know, the old Rob May guy, but Macys has been around for 100 years. I think they really got steam like in the 90s. You know, they started buying up all of, you know, Marshall Fields and all of them. Like I said, I don't know, you know, I'm a new school Macys guy, but they started assimilating all of these other department stores, and that's kind of like when the quality slowly went down. And then it kind of peaked in 2015 under Lundgren's leadership. I really don't like any of these guys because they don't really care. They're just in it for the money. But in 2015, it peaked. You know, we had the Super Bowl there. I remember we had this when we had, you know, the company really cared, and they really took care of the employees. They used to do so, like, and that's another thing. So we have the structure, right? Very organized structure. So we're talking about like what's happened now. Very organized structure. Now we're talking about how employees were taken care of, their rewards, everything like that. So back in the day, so this is one of the little things they did what's called Macys money. So if you open them, they used to pay cash. So back in the old days, they used to pay cash. If you work there long enough, in 20 years, you get a lifetime employee discount. Now they moved it up to 30. Macys money. Make magic cards. So like you could write, like, if I say, hey Rob, thanks for helping me out with GoBacks, I could write them a little magic card right like this, and I could put it in a little bag, and at the end of the week, if they drew your magic card, you got $10 in Macys money. You got Macys money for calling in shoplifters or reporting ticket switches. $75 to $35 depending on the reward days. And special commission incentive, selling incentive. The Rob May people, they got pensions, and the people that stayed on from back in the day, they got a full 40 hours a week. And so you got the magic cards. If you got a survey in the mail, whether it's through and this is one I got a survey, and this was from a client that I opened a Macys card for that I've known for years, and he put in a survey for me. If you did that, whether it was through the survey thing or you go on the Macys website, I can't even remember what the name of it was, you'd get Macys money. So there were a lot of reward, a lot of incentives. You had that organized structure. You had the management team. I think one of the biggest rewards too is and you had the employee of the month, so you'd get that, and they kind of was the Make Magic 6. So as a Macys employee, you got a discount, right? You get 20%. You got to charge it on a Macys card or prepaid. But if you were called out at the end of the year, the management team would vote on like 20, 10 or 15 people. If you were chosen to be the Make Magic 6, you actually were allowed, you got to go out to, like, they used to do it at, like, they actually, all the stores got together and it was like at the Marriott, and, they'd all get lunch at, like, they're really like a 5-star kind of deal, and then you get an extra 10% for a whole year as a Make Magic 6 associate. And then back in the old days, I was told that they actually did trips out of state, like to Disneyland, things like that. So they really took care of their employees back then. And so you had that, you had the special, you had organization in the structure. You had a management team in place. You had, an incentive system for the employees. And you also had, a pretty decent product line. We had things like Hugo Boss when I was working there, 7 Jeans, G-Star, all of the higher end, you had higher end merchandise. So you had all of that there. And so I think the company really kind of peaked in 2015, and Macys Fashion Square Mall, that store had been in place since 2004. That's when they opened there. And so they've been there ever since. And so, I don't know what's going on with the lighting here, but they've been here since 2000. Jeez. Yeah, look at that. There we go. So they've been there since 2015. At 2004. But the company peaked at 2015. So what the hell happened? Well, Amazon started to really take off. Everybody, Amazon came in out of nowhere. They were a bookstore, and Amazon's this big. Everybody knows Amazon is a big fulfillment center. I can order something online, get it shipped the next day, at a better value than most other competitors. And so Amazon really started to take off. They really started to take off. People said, we want convenience. I don't want to have to get up off my ass and go to Macys or go to Dillard's to shop or do anything there. I just want to do it at the tip of my fingers. I can go on my smartphone, order that shirt, and have it at my doorstep tomorrow. So a large part of the population is now using the digital platform. So that was one problem that has led to that's the main problem that's kind of led to the decline of physical retail over the last 10 or 12 years, is the e-commerce. That's what's really killing Macys right now. But when I came to Macys, the Macys has the winning strategy. They have the winning strategy. And I came to Macys. They had this policy where you were empowered as an employee to do the right thing. If somebody came in and they wanted to use a coupon and it didn't work and they got pissed off, I was empowered to give a discount. Okay, ma'am, I'm sorry that your coupon doesn't work, but we'll make this right. I'll honor the coupon this one time, but just remember going forward that these coupons don't work on athletic wear. We were empowered to do the right thing. Or if somebody returned something and said, oh, it's outside of the return policy by a few days, okay, I'll take that back for you. We were allowed to do that. Macys had policies in place. And that was one of the things that really hit me. It's like, you're giving me the power to do to make that choice, to make that call as if I was a manager. And Macys has the winning strategy. When I came there as an employee, in 2013, they were the only place that would take me in, that would give me the time of day. First time I ever got a promotion. They had the winning strategy, but what happened? This is what I'm going to say. It's the people at the top that make the decisions, where the employees or the people at the bottom and the customers at the bottom have to suffer the most. Macys is doing this. They're basically saying, because now they've got this beast called Amazon, and Amazon's basically trampling everybody. Even Walmart's having trouble competing with them. And so Macys is sitting here, and these executives are sitting here saying, we have to reinvent ourselves. We have to compete with Amazon. And so there was another player as well. So they're like, okay, we got to compete with Amazon. But people also were looking for value. And so a lot of places like Ross, Marshalls, TJ Maxx, all of these guys, they sell product like Calvin Klein, Polo, Buffalo, Ralph, Nike, all of that stuff for a discounted price in their outlet stores. So Macys is now being steamrolled by Amazon, and then they're being steamrolled by these, second-hand department stores. And most people don't know, those second-hand department stores count on Macys for business because that's where they buy their product. Macys has it on the floor. They can't sell it. It's on the shelf for 6 months. Well, it gets shipped off to Ross and Burlington. They buy it. So we had those relationships with these other businesses, something that Amazon didn't have at that time. But Macys executives said, we have to try this, we have to do that. They don't know what the hell they're doing. They want to be like everybody else, right? You have that saying, oh, I want that new bike because so-and-so has it. Or I want that look because so-and-so has it. You do what you do best. You be yourself. And Macys had a good strategy in place. They had the edge over Amazon. Because unlike the one thing that Amazon can't do that Macys can do is that physical location, that physical presence. I go in. I need to buy a shoes. I want a guy like Jose to tailor me into a shoe that will fit right. Or if I needed a suit for a special event, Dallas would be that guy that could fit me for the suit. Or if I wanted a piece of luggage and I needed to know the size, the sizing requirements for a Travel Pro piece of luggage go. Macys was my guy to do that. Amazon wasn't doing that for people. You also want to try clothes on. I want to go into the store, try it on, see how it looks. You still had those customers. But what Macys was doing was trying to be like everybody else. They're losing their customers that they have. They're loyal customers, that they have the Macys card. They've been customers for years. They want to come in. They have that relationship with Jose or Dallas because Jose has them in their client book. Or Chris up in the floor has sold him $2,000 rug. So you have those customers, and then when Macys puts these policies in place, it pushes the customers away. So we'll talk about that. So one of the things that Macys did was they said, we have to focus on value. So they started pulling out a lot of their higher end product. You started seeing things like, like in men's. This is my experience because I haven't worked in other departments. But you had things like, G-Star go away, 7 Jeans go away. I was the Buffalo specialist, and and that department was huge. We had the pad where the activewear was, and so the vendor even came out, and she says, we're paying for a specialist. What they ended up doing was we had this big pad by the escalator, huge, 300 or 400 square feet, and so they eventually condensed it by the front door, and they put William Rast in front of it. And I wasn't happy about it because that affected my ability to make my goals at the end of the month. So management basically set me up for failure. And even the vendors like, well, we're paying for a specialist to be here. Why are they pushing his back over in the corner here? So because they want to push a cheaper pair of jeans like William Rast. And so that was one of the things they were doing. And then what they implemented, they just did all of this crazy stuff at once. And then they decided, okay, we're going to try and compete. We're going to do 50 things at once. So we're going to try and compete with our partners that we have a relationship with, Burlington, Ross, all of this. And the first thing that they decided to do was open up a lot of what's called last act or backstage, Macys backstage. And it was basically like a little mini Ross inside of a Macys. So you've got a department store, you got a Ross inside of a department store. Essentially. So it's like a hot mess. I mean, so that's what they did. So they put some of the backstages and some of their lower end stores. They like Superstition was the first one. Chandler, Arrowhead, all have a backstage. Now Fashion Square doesn't because that's in a high end mall. But when they did that, it's just they're lowering the quality of their product because Ross sells discounted merchandise. It's not the higher end Calvin Klein that Macys would sell. It's the lower end Calvin Klein product. So that's what's happening. So they had that. And so also what they did was they said, okay, we're going to initiate in our stores that we, in all of our stores, we're going to do what's called last act. And so remember, we had those customers, like I said, that were loyal. They came in because they wanted to deal with Jose or they wanted to deal with Martha in Polo because those were their experts, their go-tos. And they have the Macys card. They know, oh yeah, I'm going to get a discount on this reduced item. So what Macys decided to do is say, we have to promote value. And so this is the first thing. The quality of their merchandise went down. So they said, okay, we're going to take all that for second and third markdowns and make it what's called last act. So, they nothing new about it. They lowered the prices a little bit. But what they ended up doing is last act no longer qualifies for the coupon. And that slowly happened too. It pushed away our loyal customers because now this even though maybe the prices are the same, it's like that psychological thing. I have a credit card, why are my coupons not working? So the last act was now coupon ineligible, so you couldn't use your coupon on that. And that was happening too, and that hurt Macys. So a lot of vendors said, hey, you can't discount our product anymore. So like Hurley used to take the coupon, Perry Ellis, some of those brands, and then they slowly started putting a kibosh on that. And that infuriated a lot of people with their Macys card. And so I think it kind of pushed away, and you had a lot of, I had personal experiences with this. I had clients where they basically said, I don't shop here because it's like, you guys are starting to look like a Ross. My coupons don't ever work. Why do I have a Macys card? It used to be like that gold standard, back in, when you think of department stores, you think of the high-end merchandise, the credit card, it's like, and so Macys tried a bunch of different things. They tried, the Plenty program with American Express, and that tanked because you only got like 1% back. Then they tried coupons that didn't have exclusions. Those went away. Now they're using the different tiers depending on how much you spend on your Macys card. And so, yeah, they just kind of they sunk all of their, you know, it really hurt the loyal customers. And so another thing, going back to those loyal customers, you a lot of our associates, and I think this hurt the business too. Like I said, you had specialized people. You got guys like Jose in shoes, Dallas in suits, Rob and Levi, Martha and Polo. People that knew the business, that knew how to drive customers into the store to buy the product. Well, what Macys decided to do is say, we're no longer doing specialty departments anymore. They first took incentives away, and then they took those positions away altogether. And so, like, I'm going to give you an example. I'm going to talk about me. I had a client book of like over 100 people. I'd have to call, people that I had good relationships with. And I'm proud of the relationships that I had. So I'd have to call them in. Well, I usually go once a month. I'd call everybody in, and I'd usually have like a 5-10%. I'd have like 3 or 4 customers come in once a month. I'd have a pretty good, it was a low six. I didn't have everybody come in, but I'd always have somebody come in for the sales each month. And so they had my client for all the associates. Everybody had to do it. And I thought it was a good idea because it helped drive people into the store. It helped generate, it helped make money for Macys. I know personally, I open credit cards for people like my guy Clint that I had to survey for. This was a customer that I built a relationship with. I opened him his Macys card. He was a repeat customer. He spent over $1,000 with me, and I'm proud of that. And I made a friendship out of it. So I think that was a great idea, and I think Macys really, hit the ground they ran on. Amazon doesn't have this. This was their winning strategy. So what does Macys do? They kind of shelve it. They say, okay, you don't have to. If you're a part-timer, you don't have to do it anymore. There's no more specialists. You did have the personal shopper. So okay, I deal with Martha for polo, or I deal with Jose for shoes. But if you want somebody who's a real expert on everything, you go to one of the personal shoppers. So they basically shelved my client. They stopped pushing it, and then you had only a select, like, top talent, what few specialists you had left, and then personal shoppers. That was another thing, too. They were, okay, you were this title, and then they took that away. It's like, they were trying to do too many things at once. And it ended up being a clusterfuck. Like, okay, we have personal shoppers, and then my stylist. Then they do away with my stylist. They do away with specialists. Then they bring the specialists back. One of our colleagues here, her name's Harriet. I always take this saying that she'd sit there and she'd say, Macys doesn't know what the heck they want to do. And that was a true statement. So I think, shelving or doing away with my client, I think a lot of associates didn't like it. Was something I enjoyed it personally. If you know how to do it, if you like sales, you can, it was a good idea to drive business. Into the store. If you don't have to do it, why call people in? If it really kind of hurt the branding. And so, it's just policies that Macys did kind of sunk it into the ground. And so that customer Amazon took a lot of the customers that Macys had, a lot of the customers away, the bulk of them. Now they want to do online. But the loyalists, between the coupons and messing around with the loyalty and diminishing that specialized selling, really took a hit for Macys. And so that was happening. And then they slowly started to do away with incentives. Like, we used to have potlucks. So like every once a month or every 2 months, we'd have a big potluck in the break room. And then every month too, there'd be like they'd have a cake. and they put it in the little break room, and everybody would get cake. They just slowly started to get rid of those things. The magic cards went away. Um, you know, asset protection. We're going to talk about AP too, because that's going to be part of this. But loss prevention rewards, like ticket switches, went down from $35 to $5. Specialist incentives went away. They did, I'll give them credit, they did do an incentive for the whole store. So if the whole store made their incentive, you would get a percentage of that based on what the sales were. So they did do that, but they got away. They punished the top talent, like the specialists like me. They got rid of my incentive. I had a decent incentive. $200 in clothing, $200 in cash if I made my goals to a certain percentage. So they did away with all of that. Cosmetic vendors don't have gratis anymore. They don't do giveaways for their associates anymore. The Make Magic 6 went away. Those things, they used to give out gift cards if you open credits. That went away. The Make Magic 6, that went away. The last year I worked there, last 2 years, they got rid of it. You just got a certificate at the end of the year. So they really did away with a lot of the programs there. And so you had Amazon, you had Macys. So it was like in 2015, and then Lundgren, he retired. Gannett took over. He made things even worse. So when I first started working at Macys too, you'd think they closed a lot of stores. There were about 8 or 9. So when I first started, they had 2 in Tucson. I don't know the names of them. They had Fiesta Mall out in Mesa. You had Chandler Fashion. You had Santan out in Gilbert. You had Arrowhead. You had in Glendale or Peoria. You had Metro in Phoenix. You had the Biltmore, and you had Fashion Square. I think that's all of them. And then you had Superstition. That's my favorite mall, by the way. Last real mall left. Superstition. And then you had the call center out in Tempe. And then you had the fulfillment center in Goodyear. So Macys has fulfillment centers. They've been opening more of those because they're trying to compete with Amazon. So all this was kind of like a slow domino effect. And then another thing that they started to do, was takeout. They took the tools away from our associates. They slowly started, like in our store, up in the home store, we had like 10 registers. On the second floor, they had, register everywhere. So what they slowly started to do was take out registers. And so it got to the point that there were more associates than there were registers. I'm like, we had a personal shopper who's responsible, who actually his job is to bring in business. They took out the register in Suits and by the underwear department right next to her office, and she'd have to go over to men's, use the register over there, and then when one of our Suits guy needed to use it, they couldn't use it because she's using it, and so it made it difficult to do your job because everything was done on the register. My client checking your text, because you get text on my client on there. So, and then everything was done on that register. And I understand. I get there. And I'm gonna say this. This was a quote my manager said. And like I said, when you think of a department store, you think of that specialized selling person. And so I always take this back. It's like Matt told me. He said this at the rallies. We used to have morning rallies. And he said, you're a sales associate. You're on the floor. You're helping people out. People that stand behind a register are sales clerks. And that's a true statement. So they took out the registers in hopes of they wanted associates to be more proactive on the floor. But then they go around and what do? They build a whole little. They take out pretty much all the registers and now they have it set up like Ross, where you have people that are just behind the register, like at Burlington or Ross, and now they're sales clerks. So you've kind of watched this, go downhill. So you got to pulling out merchandise, lowering the quality of merchandise, hurting the specialized departments, taking away tools to be successful. And that's essentially what they were doing. You could not be successful. And so, let's see if I had anything else. You could not be successful. And then they were bringing out outside vendors, and then they would pull them out, and you get people that So so during this time too, like I said, Macys was trying to be like everybody else, and so they decided to, and this I think hurt the physical. This all ties back to the loyalty, the loyal customers, the few, the in-person customer base. So Macys decided we're going to have little fulfillment centers in each one of our stores. Initially, when I started working there, receiving handled all the fulfillment. But now they decided, okay, we're going to have our own fulfillment team. We'll do fulfillment up on the second floor. We will have people picking, and it blew up. We didn't have, when I worked there, and like I said, I done everything. We didn't have, the fulfillment grew. So now merchandise, so somebody in California would get that leather jacket that we sell here, or, merchandise was being shipped all over. So like if somebody in Texas needed a jacket and Fashion Square Mall was the closest location to Texas, it was like a logistics thing. They wanted Macys to be little fulfillment hubs. So they basically taken these high-end department stores and kind of made them like 50 different things. You've got the Burlington kind of thing with the backstage and last act. Now you're looking like and then you've got the sales clerks behind the register at the checkout stations, and and then you've got a return department. And you're taking away the product, and now you've got fulfillment hubs in the store. And so what would happen is that fulfillment would take merchandise that customers would need on the floor. Like, oh, I need this jacket in a size 2. Oh, we're sorry, we're out. We'll have to order it. And the customer like, well, I can't wait. I've got an event next week. I need this jacket. Then we'd have to either send them to Biltmore or wherever other store they had, and they didn't want to do that either. So guess what would happen? They'd go over to Dillard's or Nordstrom's. We'd lose the customer. Even if we were empowered, okay, I'll waive the shipping for you. No, I need it today. And so I think that kind of hurt the company as well. And so these were all decisions that were made at the top. So you had the quality of the merchandise go down. You set your employees up for failure, pulling away incentives, taking away titles, making it harder for them to work. And then you're trying to do 50 million things at once. And so in 2016, I'm not going to go into politics, but a lot of businesses decided to take a political stance. And like I said, if you're a business, you're here to make money. If you choose a political side, you're alienating 50% of your customer base. And so Donald Trump came into the picture. Donald Trump has, and I coincidentally have a Donald Trump tie on. But Donald Trump, as everybody knows, decided to run for office. And so people started complaining, we don't want, because he was racist, we don't want to buy, you can't make anybody, like I said, when you play politics, you aggravate 50% of your thing. So people were like, oh, you have Trump ties and Trump shirts at your stores, we don't want to do business with you anymore. So what, of course Macys says, all right, we'll remove your product from the store, Trump product from the store. And so that pissed off people on the right, and they said, nope, I'm cutting up my Macys card, I'm never shopping here again because you took away all the Trump merchandise, even though you've never worn a Trump tie in your life. I'm cutting up my Macys card because you've taken Trump merchandise out of the store. So I think Macys kind of took a liberal view. They want to be more inclusive. Like I said, I'm not attacking anybody or taking political sides, but Macys wants to be more political. They've chosen the left side. They support Black Lives Matter. I'm just stating the facts. They support Black Lives Matter. They believe in diversity and inclusion, which is something, we shouldn't be targeting people based on the way they look or anything else like that. And so they're kind of liberal on the liberal side. And it doesn't, a lot of our people, all political sides. You got people that work here at Macys that are Republican or Democrat. I'm not going to, put out anybody's political affiliation. But Jeff Gannett or Terry Lundgren's political views should not reflect my political views as a company as a whole. You're a business. You're here to make money. And when you play politics, doesn't matter if you're a Democrat or Republican, you're going to lose business. You're just here to sell. It's like just with my clients. I'm not going to talk about because I had people on the LGBT side, and I'm not going to talk about, oh yeah, I like Trump, because I know it's going to upset them. I want to talk about clothes. I don't care about, what party you are or the way you look, if you're gay, straight, or lesbian. I just want to sell you the product. That's what a business should be doing, not playing politics. But, and so I think that kind of hurt them too. And then, Jeff, or I think it was Terry at that time, said, oh, we removed Trump product because he's running for office. And if Hillary Clinton had a handbag line with us, we would remove that as well. That's what he said in an interview. So I think they angered a lot of their conservative customers. And like I said, I'm not playing politics here. I'm just stating the facts when that happened. So that didn't help them. And so I think the biggest thing that really hurt Macys is they let go a shit ton of people. But before I talk about that, and I forgot about that, ironically, before we talk about that, because they laid off a shit ton of people, and that doesn't help with the next topic, is our loss prevention. And ironically, Macys takes the liberal view, but yet they were sued by the Attorney General's office in New York for racial profiling. There was a huge lawsuit, and that's kind of why Macys took this very aggressive stance of, we need to be more liberal, we have to protect the brand. That's kind of like why they went into that direction. They changed the loss prevention to asset protection. And so I could make a whole different, because I worked in AP, I can make a whole, that's a whole nother video. But that was another thing. Macys has a shit ton of shortage, and just in our store alone, $500,000. And the stuff that I saw, I never worked in AP. But my guy, Don said, you're going to see a lot of things. And boy, did I. And so that's something else that really, I think that really hurts Macys' bottom line, is that you had so much theft in the store. And Macys was more afraid of racial profiling than stopping shoplifters. And I'm totally against, racial profiling. But nobody in our store ever racially profiled anybody. We made so many stops that corporate audited our AP team. And half of our AP team was of minority. And they were auditing us because we were stopping too many people. And so that really hurt their bottom line. Like, I was the Buffalo specialist, and we had a guy come in, and he stole Buffalo over and over and over again. Then it was Tommy Hilfiger jeans because Buffalo kind of got pushed aside. I mean, literally, running out the door with shit. I mean, the stuff that I have seen. I mean, it just, hurt their bottom line. And so they just really, they don't want, and that's the thing too. It's like they're allowing people to steal from their stores. They don't want to stop people. The people at the top don't want to do it because they want, they know they're getting insurance money for, this $500,000, right? $500,000. They're going to write that off to the insurance company, and the insurance company's going to cut them a check. They don't give a shit that we lost almost $20,000 in premium denim or $17,000 in Lacoste. They don't give a shit about that. Even though that's clothing that somebody could have potentially bought. We couldn't fulfill orders for our online. No, they don't care about that. They're more worried about racial profiling. And of course, they're going to get that insurance check from the insurance company, Sedgwick or whatever. Whoever does their insurance. They'll write it off as a loss at the end of the year, and the insurance company will cut them a check. Because we have our AP team in. I think we'd get the total dollar amount recovered was like $40,000 or $50,000 a year. So that the stuff that we stopped, the stuff that people could have potentially, that's not even added on in here. But it's kind of like a show. Okay, we have loss prevention people in, and then it's like they have all these rules they gotta follow. Just like cops, it's hard to even do your job. And so I mean, all the stuff that goes on in the news. So that was another thing, and it's gotten worse. The theft has gone up with the fentanyl and everything like that, and people know. And so that leads me to the last thing. People, and why are people steal? Why is the theft gone up? You have those external economic factors. You have the fentanyl epidemic, but why is the theft problem becoming more prevalent at Macys? Well, it's because Macys has shrunk their fucking workforce down so much that's why people are doing it. They can run out the store knowing that nobody's there, nobody's going to stop them, and there's no security in the store because Macys has cut the security. Macys don't even have HR in the store. But they've cut so many people. I'm not going to name names, but they have cut so many people. And we'll talk about how much they've cut in our store. Like I said, going back to when I started, we had all these teams and organization, and that slowly went away. They converged all the individual men's departments into one. They got rid of specialist positions. Now it's gotten so bad, you have 1, 2 associates for the entire men's floor, and you've got one register. They've cut countless people in the cosmetics department. Receiving is down. They consolidated handbags to women's clothing. Management. Okay, you used to have a men's manager. Well, men's is running men's, shoes, jewelry. You have one manager for 3 departments. So now your ratio, instead of having one manager who can focus specifically on a department, now they're running 3. And then they're not managers anymore. They're sales supervisors or leads, team leads, which, they're lower paid. So they're doing away with a lot of that structure. You don't have that incentive to work. And and it's like I talk about it like me when I started working there. It was kind of like cutting the fish, right? Okay, yeah, there might be a lot of fat with Macys, so they've cut the fat. Now they're down to the muscle. They cut a little bit of skin and other tissue. Now you're down to like the literal bone, and they're still cutting jobs. And so, you've got, one. It's like when I was working there, there's only a handful of people left. You don't have a bridal department anymore on the third floor. You don't have a hotel handler. You don't have a luggage specialist. You don't have a hotel bedding specialist. You go down to the second floor. Everybody's working the same department now. You might be a sales associate. Going back to tailored selling. Now you might have somebody who's never worked in men's before. They move people around. So then somebody that does want to buy something physically in the store says, "Oh, can you fit me for a dress shirt?" Like, "Oh, no, I can't. I don't know anything about it. I work up on the second floor." So that turns that loyalty base off. So now it's just one clusterfuck. Your security team was 5 people. Now it's down to 2. You don't have a manager in AP anymore. One, and then like the store manager, they cut the assistant store manager, and then some of the actual GMs oversee not 1 but 2 stores. The structuring has been so disorganized. Like I said, they took HR out. We had an HR manager. They took that out. It's just, how much more can they cut? And then it's gotten so bad that now selling associates have to have a fucking walkie-talkie because they don't have enough people. And if the manager needs something, they can radio you on the walkie-talkie. It's just crazy. But they've cut so many people. And that's what happened with me. It's like when COVID hit, so they were at their peak. Macys was at their peak in 2015. And they sit there and it's like they're just running themselves in the ground. Go back to doing what you do best. Get those specialized departments in there. Make sure you're adequately staffed. Have that organization. Right? Have that organization. Have that structure. Don't have one person trying to run 3 departments. Because you're going to run yourself into the ground doing that. So Macys went from this powerhouse giant, and they had the one thing that they had over Amazon was Macys had a very valuable private brand. Their private label clothing and merchandise was stronger than Amazon's. But now they're letting Amazon run them over because Amazon's doing their own lines for everything. But they've cut everything. And that's kind of like what happened with me. They peaked in 2015 and it slowly went down. And then COVID hit. And right now what's happening with Macys is they're slowly, they've closed like several hundred stores. They were up like almost 800-900 stores. Now they're down to like less than 700. And now what they're doing is they're opening these little actual like backstage or Market by Macys, and they've closed so many of their physical locations. So they've closed Metro here. They've closed one in Tucson. They closed Fiesta. I forgot about Fiesta. They took away our call center. We had a call center in Tempe. It's gone. So a lot of the training and everything like that, they took that away too. So you don't have that support. And then they've cut all of the corporate people. I sat there and I saw people that worked here 25, 30 years gone like that. They don't even care. Then they're letting people go. They're their best people in a store. What is going on with Macys? Out with the old, in with the new. I mean, what is going on with them? Quality of the merchandise is down. But right now, so they dipped, and then when COVID hit, they were on the verge of filing for bankruptcy. Then they ended up borrowing out money. And then right now what's happening, and I'll talk about this, this is where we'll conclude, is Macys, and the one thing that they do have is they have real estate. The Herald Square, all of these. So you have different stores. You have a flagship, you had like a 100 tier store, a 50, like top 50 stores. Then you had your top 100. And so those top flagship stores are sitting on an immense value of real estate. And so what Macys is trying to do, or there's something going on, they're trying to sell the company. And they've been unsuccessful. And so right now what's happening is a private equity firm, which I was dealing with one myself. I'm not even going to get into that, but a private equity firm tried to put in a bid to buy out Macys. This has happened a couple of times, and the deal fell through. And the private equity firm is trying to target that real estate. They want to sell the leverage, the assets. So it's like not only does Macys not give a fuck anymore, these executives who are running the company want to sell it because they know they're going to get some kind of bonus. This happened a few years ago when some Canadian company that owns Nordstrom's tried to buy them out, and they talked about how Gannett would get like $4 million from the deal. So these executives or the board of directors, of course they want to do this deal because they're going to get golden parachutes. Because this private equity firm, they'll buy up Macys and then they'll demolish it from the inside out. They'll tear it apart. And so that's what's happening right now. And it happened to Sears, and that's what happened. Like Sears, it was Eddie Lampert that ran Sears into the ground. Same thing for Kmart. And the same thing for Macys. Macys is hold on because they do have that potential. They have the potential to win, but they don't want to do it. They want to try and be like everybody else. They want to run the company into the ground. They make poor decisions that cost people their jobs, their livelihood. They don't care. And it's not the management because they're getting rid of the management. But I like I said, I worked for Macys for 7 years. I was the Buffalo specialist. Right there's my contract. I was the Buffalo specialist. I was the hotel handler first. And I saw this. This was my personal experience. I got promoted to it. The manager came up. She says, Jess, we need you. I want you to be my hotel handler. I said, yes. I got a $2 raise on my paycheck. I started out at $8.45. Or at 7 years, $8.45 worked up to $12.55 an hour. So I got the hotel handler position. First time I ever got a promotion in my life. And that's why I dedicated myself to Macys. 2 months later, they took the job away. Not because of my performance, but because of these restructuring. Because, like I said, they cut away specialty departments. Then I worked in asset protection. Flashback, I was the Buffalo specialist. And they took away my incentive. They took away the position. And then they put me in loss. I wanted to be in loss prevention. My district manager, my district manager, but my boss told me straight up, you are one of the best VSOs in the district. Most of the VSOs, they stand there, they don't do anything. You do so much. You go around, you make your presence known, you tag merchandise, you help customers, you have made good calls that have led to the apprehension of shoplifters. And so, never once asked for a raise. I never took time off. I remember when they were down on credits, and this was, they really back then cared about their employees. The management did. They were down on credits. I went out of my way and I drafted up a credit plan. Mary Jo sits there and reads it to the whole management team. They paid me. They actually gave me 2 hours of pay for that. But things have changed so much with the company that now they're letting people go, even their top producers. It don't matter who you are, if you've been there 5 years or 15 years. They don't care because the company is being torn apart. But I dedicated my life. That was all I had. And so when COVID hit, they wanted to move me out of my position. And I know I made the right decision. I didn't refuse to come back. I wanted to put the jacket back on. And if I was still there, I would have lost my job in men's. I probably would have been fired myself. Based on what's going on at Fashion Square right now. And what's going on with Macys. And because they cut a lot of their best of the best, they no longer have that top talent. You sat there and you watched management drop out. Some of our best managers. They basically a purge. You had guys like Matt who had been there like 10 or 15 years. He aspired to be a manager. He just walked out. Dee said, I don't want to do this anymore. I'm a personal shopper. Steve is gone. Julie's gone. Our store manager quit in the middle of a pandemic. Justin left, tucked tail and left. And then Joe put me in the dock. I don't want to do this anymore. Joe impression. I mean, it's just crazy. And then they have, that this purging of people. You're losing your top talent. People walked out. I mean, you had people that walked out. They didn't want to do burnout, basically. And I watched. And I go in, because I still love them all. I love Macys. I love the people, the clothing, getting out of the house. But I have seen it. And now they're only down to a handful of people left that I used to work with. And it kills me. And I had to say something about what's going on with Macys. I don't know why they're purging out people. I don't know why I think they want to dig. I think Macys corporate wants to dig themselves into the ground so that they get some kind of big payday from all of this. I don't know. But it's sad to see what's happening in retail. I think it's a detriment to our society, and that's what I'm going to conclude with. I think it's a detriment to our society that we don't get out, we don't interact with people anymore. We do everything on the click of our phone. And I haven't had a phone in 5 years. I know people. This is addicting. It's like a drug. But it's detrimental to our society the way that we're going. With retail and digital, everything. So it really hurts deep down inside. And with that being said, I had to say something about what's going on with Macys and what's going on with Macys Fashion Square. Because, it kills me. And I know one day I'm going to walk in there and they're going to have their liquidation business. Forgot about Paradise Valley Mall, too. They shut down. Too, that I just dropped they've closed so many stores I can't even keep track. But I'm gonna walk into Macys one day and there's gonna be a liquidation sale and it's gonna bring me to tears. And I know I was part of that building. I remember because I worked the overnights. I was there when those guys were laying the tiles, doing the bathroom. I felt like I was a part of that store. I remember just being when they shut the building down and I'd have to close it up at night. I remember it was just like that, the inner moment of peace. It was like, I felt like I was part of that building. Just being there at night, it's just sad what's happening. But I know one day it's going to happen. There's not going to be anybody left there, I know. And I know they're going to have a liquidation sale. When it's going to happen, I don't know. But the way they're going, they're digging themselves into the ground. They're making bad decisions. It's sad because it doesn't have to be that way. But that's what I'm going to conclude with. They just, I don't know what is going to happen with Macys. I know Fashion Square will hold on because that is one of their top 50 to 100 stores. So it will be there for a while. It may not be the same store that I knew, and it may eventually close. And I know that day will bring me to tears because that was the first job that I ever really had for a long time. A lot of good memories there. And then some bad, of course. But, I will miss the store when it closes. And that's what I want to conclude with. I hope that it doesn't happen, but it will. But I just had to say something about that. And with that being said, we'll conclude this video for today. Thanks for sticking in there, and thanks for watching.